good afternoon, everyone. If we haven't met, my name is Will Stewart, and I'm the Executive Director of Stay, Work, Play New Hampshire. And if you're unfamiliar with our organization, we are a statewide nonprofit whose mission is to attract and retain more young people here in the Granite State. I'd like to thank you for joining us this afternoon for Rising Stars Spotlight, as we're going to hear from three young people of color who will be honored next Thursday, October 15th, as part of the Stay, Work, Play Rising Stars Awards. To register for this free event, which is open to one and all, just follow the link that will be dropped into the comments section in just a few minutes. Today's discussion is actually the third event in Stay, Work, Play's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion series. Stay, Work, Play, we're an organization committed to attracting and retaining more young people in New Hampshire. And as such, Stay, Work, Play is committed to making New Hampshire more welcoming, inclusive, and a more just place for young people of color and all people of color. And as part of this effort, we created the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion series to foster conversation, to enable learning experiences, and ultimately to push for change. Before we begin today's conversation, we do have a few words from Dartmouth-Hitchcock Health, whose support makes possible Stay, Work, Play's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion series. Here to provide some opening remarks is Dr. Sue Mooney, who is the president and CEO, as well as a staff gynecologist at Alice Peck Day Memorial Hospital, a member hospital of the Dartmouth-Hitchcock system. Dr. Mooney also heads up Dartmouth-Hitchcock Health's internal Diversity and Inclusion Committee. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Sue Mooney. Dr. Mooney, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Will, and thank you to Stay, Work, Play New Hampshire for sponsoring this series and today's event. But most importantly, congratulations to this year's Rising Stars, Patrick, Martin, and Shaquanda. I have had an opportunity to look at your accomplishments on the web, and I am really, really amazed and impressed and a little bit intimidated by all three of you. So thank you for all of the work that you're doing, and congratulations on this well-deserved honor. This issue of
Anna.
Diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, it's all a conversation that I think is occurring across the nation. It's certainly a conversation that's happening in New Hampshire, and it's becoming more and more of a conversation that's occurring at Dartmouth-Hitchcock Health, which, as folks know, is the largest private employer in the Granite State. We saw in 2019 that New Hampshire's non-white population crested over 10% for the first time. And that was an increase of 33% from the 2010 census. And I'm seeing this more and more at my organization, where the new employees, especially younger employees, are just much more diverse than they have been in the past. So what we know at Dartmouth-Hitchcock Health is that if we're going to successfully recruit and retain our employees, especially skilled workers and younger people, we as an employer really have to meet expectations to have a welcoming community for a wide diversity of people, however you want to define that diversity. And we've got to create an environment where every employee can thrive and feel as though they are seen, valued, and appreciated. We're also very aware of COVID-19's disproportionate impact on communities of color. And this pandemic has made it glaringly obvious to everyone what many of us have known for a long time, that healthcare is inequitably distributed in the U.S., and not surprisingly, health outcomes are also inequitable. And what's happened with COVID is not unique, but I can say that as part of an academic health system, many DHH researchers have been working for years to understand and eliminate the roots of this and other healthcare disparities. And so, in addition to sort of the workforce and the health outcomes, the Black Lives Matter protests over the summer really prompted the DHH leadership to form the task force that I chair to just evaluate how well we are fulfilling our commitment to building and maintaining a healing patient community that explicitly recognizes the value of human diversity. And our primary charge has been to listen to minority members of our community in order to understand their perceptions. And it's in that spirit that we are very proud to sponsor today's event. This forum gives us a chance to learn from community members about what they need, want, and expect from their employer as we all work together to create a more welcoming and diverse New Hampshire. I am really looking forward to hearing all of your comments and learning from you what we can do to improve as a system. So Will, thank you for hosting this, and back to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mooney, and thanks again to Dartmouth Hitchcock Health for their support of Stay Work Play's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion series. With that, I'd now like to introduce our moderator for today, who will be guiding our conversation. Arnold Nicolo is a Manchester resident, originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Arnold owns a language service company, Excel Connect LLC, and works as a community environmental justice advocate with the Conservation Law Foundation. Arnold is currently the new treasurer of the Manchester NAACP chapter. He won the Civic Leader of the Year award from Stay Work Play in 2016, the 40 Under 40 honor from the New Hampshire Union Leader newspaper in 2017, and was included in New Hampshire Magazine's 2018 IT List. Arnold became a US citizen in July of 2019 and is very excited to exercise his civics duty by voting in his first presidential election this November. During his free time, Arnold loves to explore new places, hike, rock climb, and kayak. Please join me in welcoming Arnold Nicolo. Arnold, it's yours.
Thank you very much, Will, for the warm welcoming. It's great to be here. It's an honor, and for what it's a promise to be an engaging and thought-provoking, inspiring conversation. Well, before I introduce the panelists, just a couple housekeeping items. First, just a heads up that today's conversation is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Stay Work Play YouTube page and shared via the organization's social media channel. A link to the recorded will also be sent out to all registered today's event. Second, following the moderate portion of today's conversation, the panelists will take audience questions. Anyone who has a question is encouraged to submit it in the comment section below. Finally, so that we all are be able to hear our panelists better, I'd like to ask everyone in the audience to please turn off their cameras and mute themselves. With that, let's meet our panelists. Shaquanda Allen of Manchester is the Stay Work Play 2020 Young Entrepreneur of the Year. After graduating from SNU, Shaquanda was instrumental in the passage of the New Hampshire Senate Bill 82, which removed the requirement for an individual to get cosmetology, license to start a business performing natural hair care and braiding. Then, seeing the need for more natural hair care shop to cater to the area's growing ethnic community, Shaquanda started Roots Natural Hair Shop, which is located in Manchester and serves clients from our northeastern states. Welcome, Shaquanda.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Shaquanda. Yeah, okay. We can hear you. So Dr. Patrick Hope, Lebanon, is Stay Work Play 2020 Young Professional of the Year. At just the age of 27, Patrick was named president of the New Hampshire Psychiatric Society. He's the youngest leader of the organization and the first to assume the role while still in his medical residency. Patrick was only a few months into his tenure when COVID became an international crisis, and his passionate leadership and advocate has had an immeasurable impact on both his patients and our state's medical community at a policy level. His efforts have saved lives and will continue to do so through increasing equity and access to care through policy development and implementation. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you.
Martin Toe. Martin Toe is from Concord and is a Stay Work Play 2020 Civic Leader of the Year. He co-founded Change for Concord, a group of 18 to 30-year-old young adults, primarily immigrants and people of color in the greater Concord region. For the past 18 months, he has served as the group leader, organizer, while working at the grassroots organizing turn for the American Friends Service Committee. He has organized Know Your Right training, Civics Academy, and a delegation of young adults that travel to the Washington, D.C. to advocate with our state congressional delegation for immigrant rights. He further coordinated a successful campaign to ensure that young adults would have free access to new Concord Community Center for community building events. Welcome, Martin.
Thank you for having me.
So let's begin. To start, give us some context. What is your New Hampshire story? Where were you? Were you born here? If not, what brought you here? And any of you can start.
I guess ladies first. Hi everyone. Again, my name is Shaquanda. I was not born in New Hampshire. I was actually born in Massachusetts. I came up here for school. I attended Southern New Hampshire University. I did not start off doing hair. I was a culinary student. I was baking cakes and cooking for the community of New Hampshire at one point, and that was not fun to me for a long time. So I always was braiding everyone in my family's hair. I started braiding when I was 12, and it just became a hobby at one point. And then someone came to me, and was like, "Oh, you can get money to do that." I was like, "Oh, really?" So then I started braiding my friends and family, making money. Then I went to school. I started doing everyone on campus, and my name started really just floating around. Now we done with school, graduated. I work in the kitchens, and I wasn't feeling happy about where I was, and it didn't feel like me. So as still doing the culinary world, I was braiding everyone's hair around the community at the same time. And then one day I was like, you know what, I can't keep doing this to myself. I love braiding everyone's hair. I love making them happy, changing their lives, changing their whole aura of how they move and how they walk around. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna quit my job and commit to doing hair full time. I ran into a woman that owns Heavenly Touch in Manchester, and me and her became partners in working, and it wasn't my environment that I wanted to work at. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to start a place where I feel like only natural hair clients can come and get their hair done, and we don't have to smell chemicals. Now, a part of that journey, cosmetology, you had to go to school and get a license in order to run your own hair salon. And with that, I didn't want to work with chemicals. So in my head, I was like, you know, why go somewhere, spend a lot of money? I just left school. I have this big debt. How can I go about working in a salon without my cosmetology license? I apprenticed under Heavenly Touch for a little bit. And then I found out that she wasn't even qualified to give me the license. So now we went on the search of how can we get this passed? And I can't remember for the life of me who the guy was. I kind of tell my king that it was my guardian angel that came in and offered this, told us to come and advocate this bill, which was House Bill 82. House Bill 82 states that if you are a natural hairstylist and you're working with no chemicals, you no longer have to go to cosmetology school in order to run your own shop and work in the salon. And when I heard that, I jumped on it. I told my story and how I felt about being a natural hairstylist. A lot of people don't like chemicals in their hair, and they can't go to any salon and just get their hair done the way I provide, which is with no chemicals. A lot of stylists haven't been taught in school how to care for natural hair. And that's braiding, dreads, weaves, crochets, again, anything with no chemical. So being at this shop where there's chemicals everywhere, my stomach was getting sick, my clients don't like it. I started to come up with a plan of how can I start my own environment with, natural hair care. So I met my king, who's also my LLC manager. His name's Anthony Harris. And he said, "Bae, we're gonna jump and leap." So we did that, and we started Roots Natural Hair Shop. Roots Natural Hair Shop is a natural hair salon. I don't work with any chemicals. We take care of dreads, weaves, crochets, and a whole bunch of other stuff that has no chemicals. So here we are today. And in this journey, I've just watched my clients transform No one wants to wear the chemicals anymore, and everyone wants to come back to their natural self. And I'm happy to do that with my clients. Not only just change their hairstyle, how to help them take care of it outside of the salon. Going home, buying the right products, keeping your hair wrapped. And I've noticed over time that it's changed a lot of people's way of how they walk across the world now. Like, they're so happy, they're tuned into themselves. They love that I give them certain styles that can bring up their day. It's just so hard to explain how like, you can see it. If you know that your hair is everything, you know that a bad hair day can change your whole day, pretty much. So I'm helping everyone change that bad day. So I don't know, that's more of the story. Now, Roots, we're growing, we're getting bigger. I'm working on finding a place of location at the moment where, I can have a foundation. I had a spot and I was kicked out of my spot because of wrong reasons. So now I'm in a place where I'm finding a location and a home for Roots. So I'm happy. I'm excited. This journey's been wonderful. And yeah.
Thank you very
Back to
much,
you, Audrey.
Shaquanda. Yeah, thank you very much. And you're definitely an inspiration for Black and Brown girls in New Hampshire. With that, I'm gonna ask Patrick. How did you find yourself in New Hampshire? What's your story?
Sure. And of course, thank you so much for having me here today. It's such an honor to be considered a rising star among such inspirational young leaders in New Hampshire. I read a little bit about Martin and Shaquanda's accomplishments, and I just have to say how inspired I am to even be on the Zoom call with you both. So thank you for everything that you do, and thank you to Stay Work Play for considering me amongst the rising stars here. So as far as my story, I was born in California, but I think I must have moved to Ohio when I was 1 or 2. I didn't stay there very long. And I spent the rest of my childhood in Ohio and grew up there. I grew up near Cincinnati in a pretty rural part of Ohio. And then when I was going to college, then I decided to do a 6-year BSMD program in Northeast Ohio. And so where we went to college and where we went to medical school in that part of Ohio, near Cleveland, then that was a very different setting for me, coming from a more rural part of Ohio. In medical school, then we trained at the teaching hospitals in Northeast Ohio. So in Akron and Youngstown, Canton, some of those kind of Rust Belt suburbs of Cleveland with a very diverse inner city population. And that was our patient population that we were taking care of. And I think in training in that part of Ohio, then I was able to see just what the disparities could look like in terms of the different types of care and the different health outcomes that many of our Black and our Brown patients, especially in the inner city environment, have. And these outcomes are very vastly different than what more wealthy socioeconomically or white patients may experience. And at that point, then I was also fortunate to be exposed to some of the principles of public health and preventive medicine, which showed me that it doesn't have to be that way. And I think that was very important for me as a young medical student to learn. And so then when I was looking for residencies and interviewing for residency programs across the country, then I tried to interview at a lot of different programs that offered a focus in public health, as well as mental health care, of course, because psychiatry was my primary specialty that I was applying to. And then I found that Dartmouth Hitchcock was really the only place in the country that offered a preventive medicine residency in addition to the psychiatry residency that I was planning to do. And so what brought me to New Hampshire was really just the opportunity for professional development and the opportunity to help advocate and make things better from a policy standpoint for our patients, because I think it's so important to care for the patient in front of us to the best of our ability, but even more important to do good and make policies that support our care of each and every patient. And so when I got here, I think I was very pleasantly surprised because I had never been to New Hampshire prior to my interview, but pleasantly surprised by how much I love it. And I've been here for, this is my 6th year now. So as soon as I got here, I think I found that this was really just such a great state for me and my interest in terms of my love of the outdoors and skiing and hiking and all those activities that New Hampshire has to offer. But then also, again, that opportunity for professional development, because being able to train in psychiatry amongst experts in the field, and then the opportunity to pursue an additional residency in preventive medicine was just a really incredible opportunity for me. And I think part of what has made this opportunity so special is the fact that I've been able to get involved with the New Hampshire Psychiatric Society when I did, because when I first came here, then I think it was a very different type of organization in terms of we have one psychiatry residency program in the state as it stands right now. And I think it's possible that we might have another in the future, but we've had one for a very long time. And those are the psychiatry residents that our state produces each year. And if we're not able to retain those residents, then recruitment is a very hard issue. And that's something that Dr. Mooney had mentioned too. And so when I first moved out here, then I realized that residents weren't very involved in the New Hampshire Psychiatric Society. So over the past 6 years, then I've been able to slowly get residents more and more involved in the society and more involved advocating for our patients. And it's something that I think is a very important part of medicine that often is not taught in medical schools and certainly not emphasized. But I think something that needs to be emphasized, because without understanding the population health dynamic and the population health principles of the care that we provide, then we're not really doing the best that we can, in my opinion. And so what I've been able to accomplish is really, I think the most important thing is just getting our young psychiatrists involved, especially because as it stands now, our state produces about 9 fully fledged psychiatrists each year or so. And so I think it's important to make sure that these are psychiatrists that if they don't stay in New Hampshire, have made a really positive impact and have a great understanding of the needs of the patients that we care for in our state. So thank you again for having me today.
Thank you very much, Patrick. New Hampshire is very fortunate to have you. And you mentioned something about retention. We'll circle back about that. Martin, what's your story, man?
Man, I feel like this is tough going after those two. What an honor it is, first of all, to be able to be counted in this number. Patrick, like, you're doing extraordinary things, but one of the things that I feel like might be a little tough, though, I feel like I'm asking myself, like, from Cali to New Hampshire, that's tough. Shaquanda, I definitely got to come in and see your spot. I think I might need some help with my hair. But for me, my story starts out in Africa. Came to the States back in 2003, and the reason is because of war. A civil war, to be exact. When I came to the state in 2003, life wasn't peachy. First of all, I didn't really understand the culture and the way things went down here in New Hampshire, and as well as coming to a climate where it's super cold. So I had to really adjust, to the environment and learn about, learn how to do life here. One of the later on, fast forward, I went through elementary, middle school, and in high school. In college, I was at the Tech, NHTI. That's where I met my friend of mine, that IE, who was the former intern with the American Friends Service Committee. uh, I had seen him in school, but like him and I had never interacted. And that day at the tech, you know, he brought the idea. He's like, "Hey, what would you, what do you think about like, you know, having like, you know, a group where young, you know, young people like us can come together and like, you know, um, and just like, you know, do things in the community." And it's just like the idea just really stood out to me because there was nothing like that I knew of in Concord. And so uh, I remember like our first meeting was like three of us, him, I, myself, and this other kid that only came to one meeting and never came back again. And then we're just like, it wasn't really like, we didn't know what organizing meant at that time. And we were just like, yo, we have a lot of stuff on our minds and we just want to talk about this. So it was like we were just like, oh, I felt like we were just venting, just talking about like, you know, just a lot of things such as like, man, remember this kid who was so talented back in high school, and you know, he after high school it seems like you know the school let him down, the system let him down. His potential wasn't put to use because it feels like they're doing this to a lot of us, right? And we go down when we're naming a person after a person. It's like, man, this person could have been great. Um, and so like we realized that this was starting to look like something that was like of a systemic type of thing. And so the more we sat down and talked about it, the more we started to get a perspective from each other, and more of us started joining these conversations. Um, then then over time, you know, for me, it was like I was a great recruiter. So I was just able to like just sell. So like as soon as we were like, we want to form a group. We need more people that you know are care about you know creating space for young adults to come and share their ideas and do things. I was like, yo, I know people. I could tell people about this. I know they'll come. So I use that interpersonal part of me to you know get young adults to show up. And the conversation kept on going. And as the more we met, the more we started to get our thoughts together. We were able to then reach out to people who were skilled in organizing and to help us kind of formulate uh, Change for Concord and like the vision and what we wanted to do. Um, and so, yeah, that's kind of how Change for Concord came about. It just came, uh, former intern IE just like, hey, um, would you like to like you know have a group where young people meet? And it's like, man, I've never had that before, especially coming out of high school and going to college. It was like there's nothing much to do here, and so having that would be super awesome. I don't know, now is the perfect time to like talk about you know the things that we were able to accomplish and to achieve as a group. Uh, but I think maybe that's for a later question.
Yeah, and I think transitioning, thank you very much, Martin. And I think the next question for the three of you will be, what has your experience been like as a young professional of color here in New Hampshire? And Martin, since we have you, can start.
Yeah. Um, so for me, like when I got into organizing, and I think I was just doing it because it was just like the overflow of my heart was just to like want to do good, and um, and I I was doing it, and you know at the time I wasn't working for you know AFSC. I was just doing it because I just like this is what a regular person should be doing. And over time, like I think a lot of the things that we were like again, Change for Conquer, I feel like I didn't give a definition of it, but Change for Conquer is really a group of diverse young adults just coming together, working together in order to create like a healthy environment where other young people can actually thrive and feel like they're contributing to the community. So like a lot of the things that I feel like we right off the bat, like we were able to do was like we were able to like we noticed a lot of stuff happening within Concord. Like I remember there was a story like in 2016 around that time where a bunch of some young adults in the middle school were kind of like criminalized basically. They were basically uh, like recess stuff, right? um there were the school blew out of proportion, was like, yeah, these kids are like acting like thugs and this and that. They're gang affiliated. I'm like, I know these kids and they're not gang affiliated. This is recess stuff, and but like it was so blown out of proportion that it actually threw those kids on that path, um, and put them in the system, the same like school to prison system that we kind of talk about. And a lot of times we say, oh, not in New Hampshire, oh, not in this state, but the school system does the same thing. And so we're like, yo, like we feel like we Change for Conquer as a group, like we should do something about it. So we had reached out to the police department. We had we tried our best to get in contact with them, and really we felt like our effort was going nowhere. There wasn't any type of communication and relationship built with like the general public in minority communities. And so like we Change for Conquer started like building that relationship. We started having these events called like dialogues called Blue and You, where we would invite the police officers on, once they got comfortable enough to be like, okay, yes, we would like to do that, to sit down and actually dialogue and talk about like like experiences of like what people are like in the community feel like about policing. And so that was one of the things that was like, okay, so like we saw the needs, we saw the things that needed to be done. And I think we just kind of grabbed it by the bull and just started running with it. Um, uh, you know, uh, we um, we we also were able to do do we were also able to do like a know your rights event with the ACL groups like the ACLU. Let me know if I'm rambling. Uh, uh, with the ACLU, where we did know your rights for young adults. We felt like a lot of our time needed to be built or put into community building. So we thought that we needed space for young people to meet, and so we organized, and we showed up at the city council. Um, and we petitioned for space at the citywide community center, which felt like a merry-go-round. But after a while, we finally were able to get space there. We started hosting coffee houses, um, and that's when the pandemic hit. Um, so the other thing that we also did we know like the Keach Park is the most diverse part of of Concord, and we were advocating for the state to put lights on the soccer field because that's one of the most utilized space. If you come to Concord and you want to know where all the most diverse city is, just go to Keach Park. And there's a lot of other things that we did. I would love to talk about, but I know time is of the essence. So I'm just gonna pass it back to Arno. Lydia Yen, who is the new intern. So I just want to acknowledge your presence and thank you for carrying the baton.
Thank you very much, Martin. Patrick, how has been your experience as a young professional of color in New Hampshire?
Sure. Yeah, I think something that that I've noticed since being here is that, of course, I, as an Asian American physician, belong to a group in medicine that is not an underrepresented group in medicine, but of course is still a minority group in America. But then coming to New Hampshire, where typically, you do see many Asian American physicians and Asian American people working within the healthcare system and the healthcare apparatus, then it feels very much like I am an underrepresented minority here in New Hampshire. And so, something that feels that way to come here and see that in the healthcare system in which I work, then there isn't a lot of diversity. Then those moments when we care for patients who are Black or brown, then we kind of see that, we as a healthcare system could be serving them better regardless of the color of our skin, of course, and we could be rendering more culturally humble care rather than culturally competent, a distinction that I think should be made. And then I think that what I see is that when there are Black and brown patients, then they don't always feel the most comfortable with the healthcare system as it is in New Hampshire. And this is a point that many healthcare professionals are not necessarily comfortable having that conversation. Like, are you comfortable with this healthcare system? Are we meeting your needs? What can we do to be better? And that's a conversation that I think needs to be a very normal part of the patient provider interaction, regardless of where you are, but of course in New Hampshire. One of the things that I wanted to make special note of too is that I think change is an incremental process. And what I've seen here each year is incremental improvements. Certainly you don't want to see change going the other way and not improving. But I think what we've been fortunate to see, at least at Dartmouth Hitchcock anyways, is just that each year we've really focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And each year has brought very small and very positive change, to the point where now 6 years later, it's almost unrecognizable from the institution I was working in when I started, which even back then was a very positive institution, I think, for people of color and people belonging to any such minority group. But then I think one of the other things too is that not being from New Hampshire, of course, and talking to people who, my friends and other people, relatives who may not necessarily live in New Hampshire and have never been to visit or anything like that, then the presumption about New Hampshire is just that it's a very not diverse place, of course, and a very rural place. But I think one of the things I've been fortunate to see living in the Upper Valley is just that people really care. I think with the events of the summer after the death of George Floyd and the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement, then people in the Upper Valley have just been so vocal about their support of social justice causes. There are so many signs in small businesses, local businesses, lawns, houses, about how people who live here are very supportive and very inclusive to all and very welcoming to all. And I just have to imagine that as a patient coming from somewhere else in New Hampshire seeking care at Dartmouth Hitchcock, and of course care can be very hard to come by no matter where you live in New Hampshire. And then if you're a person of color seeking care that you would find culturally humble and appropriate for your needs, then it can be even more difficult. But as a person who maybe is coming from a different part of New Hampshire and then driving through the Upper Valley to get to Dartmouth Hitchcock, then I think just even seeing that people who live here are supportive of the cause, supportive of social justice causes, must be a very welcoming sign too. So I think as a person of color in the medical system here, it's just been really great to see the incremental change that that our system is focused on each year, especially at Dartmouth Hitchcock, and really try to bring about. It's been a great process, because I think something that we have to be cognizant of is that we can't just shoehorn change into place, and it's not always going to work the way we want it to work. And I think change has to be something that is slow and is thoughtful. And I think Dartmouth Hitchcock has done a great job of that. And I think that looking around the state and just being able to drive around the state, then I see other signs of that in other places too. So it's overall been a very positive experience being a person of color in the medical system here.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for sharing. Shaquanda.
Hi. So for me, being a minority here in New Hampshire was definitely challenging, but an eye-opener. Again, I came from Boston where I seen nothing but predominantly Black, and I can get things whenever I wanted. I get my hair done whenever I wanted, a hair store. And when I moved up here in 2012, that was a culture shock. Just trying to find a hair store alone was a challenge. And when you did find something, it was like, can I get it again? And it's not consistent. So when I opened the hair shop, you know, I wanted a place that we no longer have to search for things. You know, in this world, getting shut down with no's, you know, no one wants to work with you, or they don't even know where we are, which was the other struggle of knowing what New Hampshire was. People, you know, I'm calling vendors in Boston and down south to like New Hampshire. So, and also with my clients, you know, I've heard them complain of they just moved here, they don't have nowhere to go. Finding even a food place was struggling around here. So as a professional, getting shut down was the biggest thing of everything. You know, I went to vendors looking for loans because of my growing up, not having financial backing. That was a lot of the no's. And, you know, my family doesn't come from money. So it was hard just to even get my startup capital. So that was the biggest struggle of all, not having the resources available in New Hampshire for people of color. You know, just again, like I said before, a lot of us don't come from wealthy families and, you know, an area of wealth where, you know, we can grab loans and stuff easily. And then education, places to even get ourselves educated. I had to go outside of this state to get my knowledge to run my business. A lot of my marketing skills, I had to go outside the state. It's really hard to find things around here. And I feel like what Patrick said, change is very important in this whole journey this year. So yeah, we're moving as a Black professional. That's why I open Roots too, for women and men of color, and for them to find a place to get their hair done easily and not have to search so much. The answers is right there. So we're putting ourselves out there.
Thank you, Shaquanda. And since we have you, could you tell us about the ethnic hair needs that exist here in New Hampshire and your journey to help us sustainability too? I know you alluded a little bit earlier, but could you just expand a little bit more?
Yep. So again, in the cosmetology world, the style of styling that I do is not taught in the school system. So with the bill being passed, it allows a lot of us women and men of color to come out and open our businesses without having to pay extra money for a license that will never teach us anything that we're going to use. In my eyes, that course can't even go close to what we do. You know, like it's so much detail and so many things that schooling would just take another schooling for us to learn. So we'll be getting 2 different degrees and spending more money. So having this bill passed, my goal for fighting for this was to get a lot of the braiders outside of the house. You know, the other struggle I had being here too is finding a physical location where, you know, I'm not really accepted because of my style of braiding and how how I run my shop. You know, we listen to music, we do certain things that we're sitting for 10 to 12 hours, getting comfortable, people understanding our culture of getting our hair done. And that was a lot of stopping in between. And now having that bill passed, I hope that a lot of women would see this, get outside of their house, come work for another salon that's braiding, or even encourage themselves to start their own shop outside of their home. You know, where our talent and our craft is can't be closed behind doors anymore. And I want to be the first one to show everyone that this is our craft. This is how we do our hair every day, how we feel, how we express ourselves. And now we have a foundation in a way to do just that. But me just saying my voice and my opinion to a board. And thank you to Chris Sununu for signing the bill. If it wasn't for him, I would still be in the house doing hair. And a lot of people in New Hampshire will have a hard time finding someone to get their hair done. So that was the I would say the hardest and the struggle. Other than that, this journey has been fun, exciting. I love all my clients. They love me. We've been rocking out. I've been showing off my craft. You know, especially with dreadlocks, it's a new form of styling that people are accepting. And I'm happy to be here for people to have their maintenance so they can go to the world. Because, you know, a lot of people discriminate against hair and hairstyles, especially on colored people. And I'm here to stop that. We can stay clean. We look good. My hair is washed. You know, all the bad things that people have to say about hairstyling, I'm here to change that. And having this opportunity, I hope other women and other men see that and help me change too, help the world change.
Thank you very much, Shakanda. And I'm being very, you know, there is so much we can share, and you know, it's a very interesting conversation we're having. The last question, 60 second, just short answer. What advice would each of you give to other young people of color looking to make their mark here in New Hampshire? And I'll start with Martin.
Oh my.
I would say just be be honest with yourself and be honest about your passion and where it flows from. Um, I think if you follow uh, the deep-seated desires of your heart, and if that's to make change, then I think it'll flow. I think it'll flow. You don't need to push, or I guess I would say you don't need to try to make a mark. The mark will make itself for you. That's what I would say.
Very much, Martin. Patrick.
Sure. I think for other young people of color hoping to make their mark in New Hampshire, then I would say the important thing to keep in mind is just that we've always done things this way. It doesn't have to be the way that things end up being, I would say, because I think when you're a young person, a young leader, and then especially a young leader of color too, then certainly you have an uphill battle. But I think reminding those around you that we're all working for a common interest, and especially in the medical field as well, then working to make things better for patients means that things have to change sometimes. And if you remind people that we're all working towards the same goal, then that can hopefully help to enlist a lot of really strong allies to your cause.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Shaquanda, what advice would you give to young people of color trying to make their mark here in New Hampshire?
My advice would be, and I've tatted it on my arm, it says, find what you love and never give up. I found my niche. I found what I love, what I stand for, and I'm going to keep fighting for it until the whole world understands why I'm fighting for it. And if you put that mindset in your mind, those no's mean nothing to you. Those people give you bad advice or encourage you to do something else because they feel like this would be a better way for you. No, stop that. You found what you love. You know how you want to get there. Continue to do that. Don't let no one stand in your way. And take those no's and make it motivation, because that's what myself and my team do every day. And that's how we get up every day and serve the great state of New Hampshire. We don't let no one come across what we want to do. So that's what I would say. Like, just continue to do, put your faith in God, pray to Him. He will answer all your prayers, and make sure, you just never give up.
Those are some really amazing advices. I feel inspired, and I'm sure everybody here feel inspired. And with this great conversation, we've only scratched the surface. but we can only have so much time. So I want to get some of the audience questions before we wrap it up today. And our first question comes from Molly. Molly Lanwen says that I'm super impressed how all the panelists have leveraged public policy to advance justice in our state. I'd like to know what other policy or challenge that could be addressed through policy you have your eye on in the quest to remove barrier to success. That's the first question. And the second question is from Grace Kindeke. Shaquanda, how can we help support Roots as you move to the shop to a new location? So we'll start the first question, and Shaquanda have the second question. You wanna take a crack on the first question? What are some of the challenges in the policy process that could be removed to make life easier for young people of color and just young professionals in New Hampshire?
I mean, I'll take a crack at this one. I know that New Hampshire has a couple of policies and laws in place that I think would really, now this is just speaking about the police department, that would really help. I know there's a law that that's in place that kind of shields the information of police officers, so that way, if they've ever done any type of wrong or whatever, that you can't see their records. And I think that leaves it leaves a vague opening for transparency, I think, which is very much needed in our department. And as well as I think accountability also is a big thing that I think is very much needed within our police department. And so that law, and as well as immunity, I think everyone should be held accountable. I think those are some of the policies that would love to see get I would love to see get changed within our state, and things that we can do.
Thank you very much, Martin. Patrick, you wanna take a crack at it?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I think that in New Hampshire, we are a state that is an underserved area when it comes to mental health care. So I think anything that we can do to make policies supportive of mental health care in our state would be very helpful. And I think, specifically then we certainly need to address the stigma, because we're seeing so much, especially now during the COVID-19 pandemic, with people needing to stay indoors and feeling very isolated as they adhere to social distancing protocols. That I think we're seeing a lot more mental health care need rising, and we're a system that was not equipped to begin with to deal with it. And so now I think through policy, we need to ensure that we pass laws that are supportive of people seeking mental health care. Some of the things specifically, I think we need to start by just making sure that when it comes to mental health care, it's on equal footing with other parts of healthcare. I think that's where some of the stigma arises, because when somebody seeks mental health care and has to pay so much more for, say, an antidepressant than they might for a heart drug or a diabetes drug or something like that, or insurance paying for outpatient visits or inpatient care in mental health care. And those are some things that contribute to stigma. So ensuring that we have parity, we have laws that support mental health care being on equal footing with other parts of healthcare is really important. And then also laws that would help us innovate in mental health care. So laws that would support mental health care practitioners being in rural settings, such as primary care providers' offices, to help bring the mental health care to other places rather than having patients come to us. And then I think something that we're all seeing now too, with telehealth care being such a a daily part of everybody's lives for the most part in the healthcare system overall, then a lot of people in our state don't have access to reliable broadband internet. And if you have telehealth care services and laws support use of telehealth care services, but you don't have the internet to support that, then you're basically back to square one, or maybe even worse off. And so I think we need to make sure that people who live in the rural parts of New Hampshire, and the most rural parts, have the same access to internet that would help them stay connected to both family and friends, and then also healthcare.
Thank you very much, Patrick. So Shaquanda, in 10, 15 seconds, how can we help support Roots as you move to the new shop in the new location?
So I started a GoFundMe page. If you go on GoFundMe.com and look up Roots Natural Hair Shop, there's a link. Our goal is to raise $15,000. And that would take care of the physical location and us moving in and things like that. So please, everyone, if you can donate, I would be greatly appreciated. Again, I want to build a home for New Hampshire for us to get our hair done and keep us looking fresh and clean and, feeling good at all times. Sorry for the camera move. My cameraman, my king, has got me moving around. The phone dropped. So I apologize. But
No worries
all
at
in
all.
50 seconds, thank you guys for this beautiful experience. Patrick and Martin, I can't wait to meet you guys in person. This is going to be a beautiful experience.
Thank you very much. So many great questions. Thank you all for help make this an interactive event this afternoon. This has certainly been a very fantastic conversation. And on behalf of all, I'd like to thank the panelists today for joining us and for sharing their knowledge and experience with us. Have been so inspiring, so personally. And Shaquanda, Patrick, and Martin, thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this.
Thank you, Arnold.
And with that, I'll turn it back to Will from Stairwork Play. Will?
Thank you very much, Arnold. And yeah, I echo your sentiments. A big thank you to Shaquanda, Patrick, Martin. Thank you all very much. This has been, like Arnold said, a great conversation. And also, Arnold, a big thank you to you. I know a lot of us are joining these virtual online panel discussions and things in these past few months, and I think we've all learned that conversations like this can be made or broken by a moderator. So you've done a tremendous job on guiding the conversation today, Arnold. So thank you very much for that. It certainly was a great conversation and an inspirational one as well. I echo all the sentiments here. That it's I'm always amazed by the wealth of experience and inspiration that we can find in young people in New Hampshire. And this year's obviously our award winners are no exception to that. I would like to say too that for everyone who's joining us, who's been participating today, whether you've asked some questions or just kind of sitting, soaking it all in, thank you for joining us here. And I certainly hope it's been worth your while. As I did mention at the start of the program, today's panelist will be honored next week at 6 p.m. Next Thursday, October 15th, as part of Stay Work Play's Rising Stars Awards, which will be broadcast live online. And I hope you'll be able to join us at that time to honor Shaquanda, Patrick, and Martin, and our other winners. The event is free of charge to view and promises to be another fun and inspiring Stay Work Play event. To register, follow the link in the comments section, which my colleagues were able to correct the mistake I made earlier. So follow that second link there, the RSA 2020 link, and you can get registered, and we'll send you the link so you can follow right along and get to learn more about these incredible people and our other winners next week. So with that, thank you again all for joining us this afternoon, and have a great rest of the day, everyone.